Hey guys, we're back. I'm doing it. We're doing it in reverse here. It's Melvin, and I'm the trusty wingman to Kimberly.
I'm right here, guys.
And we just wanted to do something a little different. We had a episode that we recorded with a really cool couple, and we kind of just wanted to do an intro just to set the table for the conversation and just the direction of this line of podcast that we'll do. It's going to be part of our Hand in Hand marriage podcast, and we did one how long ago, Kimberly? Probably one of our first ones.
Yeah, it was one of our first ones, so a few months back.
Yeah, and we just really been trying to get our feet up under us before we started bringing other people in. But this one was a newlywed couple. They've been married for
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months, and
they're both 23.
Yeah, and I mean they really, first off, the thing that kind of stood out to me was they seemed way beyond their years. Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Yeah. They were very mature, and you'll definitely be able to hear that during our conversation.
Yeah. We another thing is just how much spirituality played a part in their courtship. When you listen to this, it may kind of seem weird. You know, some of the things that they talk about when we ask them, you know, about to explain their courtship, their dating, all the way up into their marriage, just the standpoint that they're coming at it as, it definitely, just from somebody listening to this for the first time or getting to know them for the first time, it may sound a little weird. It definitely was a complete opposite to how Kimberly and I dated, would you say?
Yeah, but the thing about, you know, as I'm sitting here thinking about their courting and dating experience versus ours, I really feel part of the reason why they're so mature is because spirituality, God was really at the core of their relationship, not just the lip service of it, but it actually was. Both of them mentioned, you know, their admiration for each other when it came to each other's individual spiritual walk. And that's something that I can say that me and Melvin, though we definitely believed in God when we were dating, that was not something that was the foundation. And you can really get that was their foundation, and it still is.
Right. So we hope that you guys really do enjoy listening to this and, you know, take away some lessons. And yeah, anything else before we?
No, I'm excited to just share this episode and share them, you know, with you all as well, just to get a perspective that it really can be done. Dating God's way can be done. Having a godly marriage can be done. It's not that anyone is perfect, and you'll definitely see that. You know, not only did they share, but we also shared as well. But it can be done, and it can be done God's way.
Awesome. So thanks, guys, and on to the episode.
Thanks.
On speaker and all the, you know, it would go beep, and then the phone in like the other room would. And then it would be like a walkie-talkie. So I would take the phone and I'd go to the room like on the other side of the house. And as I'm like trying to find a really small like crevice to hide in, I'll tell my brother that my mom is asking for him. So he'll go all the way to the other end of the house.
Yeah.
And as he goes into the room where that receiver's at, I press the walkie-talkie on the phone and I go, Frankie. I know what you did.
Oh,
and,
you gonna get it.
Oh my God. He was like, there was one time my mom was in the room and my mom like tried to play on with it. And it only worked for so long because my mom can't keep a straight face. But she told me that as soon as he heard it, I mean, my brother's like 6, 7 at this time. As soon as he heard it, he like dead stopped. Just like mid-stride, just and he looks at my mom and then he's like, who said that? my mom goes, said what? And
You
so
gonna
he's
get
thinking he's hearing voices. Yeah. And yeah, you gotta, if you ever meet my brother, you gotta ask him about it, because
You're
it's
gonna
pretty
get
hilarious.
it. You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
Man, that's messed up. You done ruined that little boy for life. He probably has nightmares about hearing voices.
Well, no, the funniest story with my brother, I mean, he was a scaredy cat, but one time it was a Thursday night right before Friday night, and usually Thursday nights were always like game nights or something. So we had fun, and I go into the room. We were old enough to where we were like splitting up in different rooms, and we went into the room. I went with my parents, and we tucked them in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom used to do this thing called the taco, where like we get in bed and she'd like squeeze on the other sides of us,
Yeah.
to kind of like taco us in with the
I call it
blankets.
the burrito.
The burrito, yeah, we called it the taco. We're Mexican, Well, a burrito would have worked fine too, but for some reason, taco was fine. And so, we all in there, and we were like, all right, good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. And we turn off the lights, and we leave. And the next thing we hear is, Mom, what are bed bugs? I promise you, it was the funniest thing you'll ever hear. And the next thing you hear is just him bawling. I promise you could hear the teardrops falling on the floor. It was hilarious. And you bring it up today, he just kind of like looks at you and just like,
It's like,
it wasn't funny. Because the dude was like in 6th grade. Like,
oh, wait, whoa. Yeah, no, that's no. He was in 6th grade.
He's in
with the
6th
bed
grade.
bugs?
He didn't know what bed bugs were and was so petrified. Like, I'd never heard of them. Are they real? Like, what are bed bugs?
Oh yeah, no, you got to get that. Then no, that's.
that's so
I was
cool.
imagining like this little 5-year-old kid getting
Well,
terrified.
I mean, if he ain't never seen a bed bug, he ain't never seen a bed bug.
No, you got to get.
I ain't never seen a bed bug. Well, I know what they are, but
I know, but if I get you, then if I knew you were scared, now I'm not messing with you. So just to let everybody know, we are recording.
Did y'all know that?
I had a
I
feeling.
looked and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's
I was like, look at his sneaky self. Told you.
So you want to kick us off, Kimberly?
Okay, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in again to the Soul Sense podcast. I'm Kim, and I have my trusty wingman, Melvin.
What's up?
Okay. So anyways, we have another special treat for you guys. We have the Garzas. Woo woo! We have Pablo and Karen Garza, and we're going to talk about marriage today. They are newlyweds, and we're going to allow them to introduce themselves, and you guys have the floor. Let's start with Pablo.
Well, my name is Pablo. Like long walks on the beach,
Scaring people.
chick flicks, and scaring my brother half to death.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And I guess
and
for
I guess I'll
me-
take it over. Yeah, you can
Where-
go for it.
Where are you from, Pablo?
So originally, I was born in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and my dad being he was I guess you'd say a Navy, what's the word? Anyway, he was bottom ranked Navy officer, active duty, got stationed in Flower Bluff at the Naval Air Station down there. So about when I was 1.5, we moved to Corpus, and I grew up in Corpus Christi.
Oh, okay.
Corpus Christi, Texas. Yep.
Okay.
How about you, Karen?
Well, my name is Karen, and I don't like long walks on the beach. But no, I was born in Zimbabwe,
Oh.
and then moved over here when I was 5 years old, and have been a Texan ever since.
Okay.
To
Okay.
this area of Texas?
Yeah, when we moved over here, we were in the Euless area,
Oh,
and then
okay.
we've been in Grand Prairie ever since.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And they are newly married. Tell us a little bit about your marriage.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, let's start. Let's roll back a little bit.
Okay.
Let me ask some questions here. So, Pablo, you didn't travel around a lot being in it? You guys are kind of stationed in those two places the whole time?
Yeah, exactly. I think the most traveling I did was when I was from 1 to 3, or 1 to 1.5. we went from Virginia to California, to Boston. We really kind of didn't have a living place. He was just always kind of just doing things, and then he finally got stationed in Flower Bluff. And when he got stationed in Flower Bluff, he was closer to his parents. My father grew up in the Valley, so in Edinburgh, Texas, and so Corpus was as close as he knew he was going to get. So he put in the request to be inactive and reserved, and so they granted it to him, and we stayed in Corpus.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Okay.
Did I had a question right on the tip of my tongue. Tag on it. Just one brother?
Yeah, one brother, one sister.
Okay.
Yeah, and the sister didn't come until about 10 years after I was born.
Okay. So you're the oldest.
Yes.
And
Okay.
your other brother's how young? Your brother's how much younger?
My brother is about 2.5, closer to 3 years younger than I am.
Okay. Okay.
And Karen, how about for you? You've Zimbabwe to Texas, and that was it? Or anywhere around Zimbabwe, or did you just kind of grow up in one area?
Well, I was born in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe.
Not that I know anywhere this is, but hey.
Yeah. And so we just stayed there the whole time until we came over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys have family here already, or?
No. My dad came first and like set everything up, and then we all moved over here.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 3 siblings. I have 2 older sisters, and then I have a twin brother.
Oh, really?
wow.
You're a twin.
Yeah.
Wow.
I always wanted to be a twin.
I never wanted to be a twin.
I did. I wanted to have a twin brother named Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
This is crazy.
Because
Yeah.
I had a sister, so I wanted a brother. And she was 7 years older than me, so it was like
You wanted someone
I
close?
needed somebody close to age. And I was like, a twin would be like my best friend. Are y'all best friends?
At the beginning, we were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All the way until, when was it? 7th grade of middle school. That's when sports started.
Okay.
So he went into sports, had his friends, and he was never home after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you play any sports in high school?
No, not in high school. I tried out for volleyball and I didn't make it. And I realized sports weren't my thing.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pablo, any sports?
Oh, I did everything but soccer.
No soccer?
No soccer. I
He
know,
did
right?
Soccer. He did soccer.
Straight-
Best.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean like, although, yeah, I guess so, but no, I just meant I like soccer, so.
Yeah. Oh, well, then other than cricket and rugby and all of like the more popular European sports, but
There we are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, music-wise, do you play any instruments or anything like that, Karen?
Me, I'm not musically
No.
inclined at all. I'm the boring one of the two. He does everything.
Pablo, for let you guys know, Pablo is extremely musically talented. So, yeah. So let's talk. How'd you guys meet? And you want to go?
Yeah,
down that?
well, I guess just to kind of bring everybody up to speed and give them some background on you guys, talk a little bit about your journey to Christ. Kind of like your conversion story.
yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, Karen's heard this story before, but for me, I grew up in a house that was, I guess, spiritual, but we never went to church. I think it was more of a, God was there, but we never gave him acknowledgement type of household.
Okay.
It was also because of that, I grew up more atheist, more, I guess you could say more agnostic.
Okay.
I think more agnostic is the proper terminology there.
Okay.
But, because I grew up in a household where, God was there, just not acknowledged, it was kind of like whenever I grew to not really believe he was existing, it was kind of like very hard for me to actually say it out loud.
Okay.
So for me, I grew up in a smaller town in Corpus called Portland, Texas. It was a better school district. My dad actually taught there. After he was reserved, he found another job, and he went to school, got his degree to be an English teacher, and taught at Portland, which was a pretty well established school district in the Corpus area.
Okay.
So, being that it was a small town, Southern hospitality, Christianity was really, prevalent in the area. So I grew up kind of agnostic, and always had friends that were extremely devoted. And so, I think for me, always seeing that was more of I respected it,
Okay.
I guess you could say. It was more of, I really respect that decision and I really admire that. But at the time, I was more like, I still have my views, but I respected it and valued and looked up to that so much that when I hit college and things were feeling a little empty, that was the first thing I turned to. And so throughout high school, I was dating a girl, and in fact, whenever I was deciding to choose aerospace engineering for my degree, I didn't want to go out of state. I was looking at Embry-Riddle, I was looking at Maryland and all these other schools, but I decided to stay in state because it was cheaper. And so for Texas, you got UT, Texas A&M, UT Arlington, and Rice that all have predominant good aerospace engineering degrees. And the girl I was dating at the time was playing college softball, or was committed to playing college softball at A&M Commerce. So the closest school to that was UT Arlington. And on top of that, I had family in the area in Grand Prairie, and I had a scholarship, an academic one, to come to UTA. And I had been accepted to A&M, but because of the circumstances, I was like, well, UTA is the best choice. And a year into my college, degree, that relationship, crashed and burned. And I think after that, I went through a really dry spell of just kind of doing whatever I wanted, and then feeling really empty, feeling like I wasn't living up to the potential that I knew I could, in helping other people, or in, I guess you could say, being influential. I felt like I was just like a bug on a rock, in this really big world. And so the only one I felt that would really give me the opportunity to be influential, be the light, right? As scripture actually does say, was God. And so I had done the studies prior, but I ended up contacting Josh Hose again. Okay. I think we're familiar with Josh. Yeah. And so I hit him up and was like, I think we should definitely hit these studies again. For me, I didn't really pay attention the first time, so we went through it the second time, and I felt like the second time was really kind of like I was paying attention. And I think, I kind of skipped the crucial part of kind of like my conversion, but right after that relationship kind of crashed and burned, I put a lot into that relationship, as anyone who doesn't have Christ does. I think anyone who doesn't have a relationship with Christ puts a relationship in someone else, or puts a relationship in something, whether it be work, music, just something. And so once that only relationship that I had kind of crashed and burned, I felt, empty. And so I went back to Portland, and we have this pier, it's on Sunset Lake. And I went out there maybe at like 10 a.m. and I prayed for about maybe 7-8 hours. But it wasn't just like any prayer. And it wasn't like the good old, like, thank you, Lord type of prayer. It was, I was cussing, I was, yelling, I was kind of just asking him, like, all right, well, one, why did you make me the way you did? And if you're real, show your face. You know what I mean? Like, just kind of like show you're real.
You were wrestling with
God.
God.
Yeah, I was wrestling. I was like, look, I don't believe in you. If you want me to believe in you, show me something.
Wow.
And so, I definitely think he showed me something.
Okay.
There was an apartments that I was in charge. I had a bunch of roommates. I had 3 roommates. We were looking for an apartment, and it didn't look pretty. Like we might have been like homeless going into the next semester. And like literally the next day when I get back from that prayer, I get a call. It said like 10 people dropped off the waiting list. Wow. Do you want it? And I think at that point I was like, wow, you know, you definitely did show something, you know. But for me, it was like, all right, well, I want more, you know, at the time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, you know, I went back to college. And for me, you know, aerospace, I grew up in I think any minority that you grow up in, the common teaching is you're going to go to school and only school and you're going to do good.
Yeah.
You know? And for me, school was everything. And so like going to church, going to midweeks, having time set aside to actually study the Bible, not just like 30 minutes, but like 2 hours of the day, you know, basically another class. It was very hard for me to kind of like give up because I wanted to keep my 4.0 average. I wanted to do all that thing. And so when I went back, I was like, you know what, like I need my time to study, but you know, let me seek first the kingdom. And the biggest thing I think that jumped out at me was that I spent maybe a fourth of my time. Like I took, if I spent 100% of my time studying, I narrowed that down to 40%, and my grades actually went up.
Wow.
So it was like, yeah, I don't know whether or not like I needed that spiritual break, because by all means, my day wasn't. It got more busy, you know. I didn't have that break, and so the fact that, you know, I spent less time studying for classes and also didn't really like ease my schedule back, and I got better grades. You know, it was kind of like, all right, things are starting to, you know, be in place. And I think those were like the moments that I was like, all right, God's showing his face, you know, and for me, it was like, all right, let me make this decision, and let me make it with all my heart, because he's showing me things, and I'm pretty sure he's going to show me things later. And he definitely did, you know, after I got baptized. He definitely did show his face a lot more after I got baptized, actually.
Wow, you said a word right there. You had some nuggets all in there. That was good. All right, Karen, you're up.
Good. I don't know if I can compare to him.
Yes, you can.
But for me, pretty much most of my life we grew up religious, like going to church every day, having Bible studies as a family.
Yeah.
Usually every night we would pray together. My dad would be the one to usually read scriptures. So religion was more of a culture.
Okay.
And with a lot of African cultures, a lot of British colonized cultures, they indoctrinated Christianity into people's cultures.
All right.
So it's kind of like, oh, this is just something that we do.
Okay.
Like all Africans are Christians. That was like my mindset growing up.
Okay.
And so grew up getting into like just the flow of things. Things were just natural. But we learned how to act like Christians. But you were never really taught how to exactly be a Christian.
Okay.
Even if you wanted it. You were like, okay, like, I know I want a relationship with God, but you don't know exactly what to do.
Okay.
You just know how to save face and just look like you have everything put together.
Okay.
And then what changed was right after I graduated from high school. My sister was studying the Bible. And so she was at TW.
Okay.
And so she was studying with people from UNT up there. And then she came down for the summer and continued to study with some people from UTA.
Okay.
And so she started bringing me out, and I was going out to Wednesday events.
Okay.
And I didn't like it at first. I was like, people are too nice. I'm antisocial.
That's people. I'm the same way. When I first started coming around the church, I was like, "Why is everyone looking at me while I'm singing? Like, what are they looking at?"
And they're like, "Oh, they come, they just give you a hug," and you're like, "I don't know you." Stop.
Like I need 50 feet.
Yeah. So that was my first thing, and I was like, "Oh, the people here are fake. They're over here smiling at me. They don't even know me." And I was really mean.
I
was really mean.
I wouldn't get that from you.
Because I'm really quiet and antisocial.
Okay.
So for me to not have people around me, I would be really rude to people. So then they wouldn't want to come up to me.
Okay.
Yeah. And so after that, because I think by that point, I was only going to church like only on Sundays.
Okay.
But we would go in right right before like the actual service would start. So would make sure that would wait for all the greeting to be over, and then would leave right after service was over, so no one would catch us.
Yeah.
As we go out. And then my sister, she was talking to me, and she was like, "Oh, how are you doing spiritually?" And I was like, "I'm good." And then I just walk off because in my head, like, that's all I had to answer. And she's like, "No, seriously, like, how are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm going to church, read my Bible once a week. Yeah, I'm good." And she was like, "No, like, so if you die right now, where do you think you're going?" Mm-hmm. And I was like, "How do you ask me that question?" And I left upset. And then I came back crying, and I was like, "I'm not going to make it to heaven." Because I knew in my heart, like, I wasn't following God.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to. I was lazy. More so just cared about myself. And so after that, I started coming out a little more. And then I ended up moving to San Antonio for my first year of school. And that's when I ended up meeting up with a couple people over there. And I think the first day I met one of the sisters down there, she asked me to sleep over at her house. And I just said yes. And I didn't even know her.
Yeah.
And so sleeping over her house, it was like, I don't know, I could see a difference within her from anyone else. Like, my roommate was like, "You're crazy." And I was like, "No, like, I can feel the light in them."
Yeah.
I could just see them, like, exuding it. And that's what I want. Because I knew that I didn't have that.
Okay.
And I never saw that in my life because everyone that I was around was religious, but you could see that it wasn't really being put into practice.
Wasn't genuine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then seeing that in San Antonio, that's what changed me around. And I was just like, yeah, like, I've already dropped everything.
Yeah.
I just didn't have anything else to hold on to. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm ready to hold on to God and to let him be my companion.
Okay.
Because I was kind of lonely
Okay.
right then. But yeah, so that was mine. And I've enjoyed it ever since. It was a struggle coming back to Dallas.
Oh.
Because I was only in San Antonio for a year.
Okay.
And it was very structured over there. So it was definitely a lot easier things. It was a lot easier to evangelize because you're always around people. And so you just, if you're around somebody, you're evangelizing.
Okay.
And so there was a lot more routine to it.
Okay.
And then coming here, it was more like, you got to do it yourself. And so that kind of threw me off a little bit. I was
Really?
like, oh, snap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt like I didn't have any friends. I was a little bitter having to come back because I didn't do
Okay.
well in school,
Okay.
which is the
Okay.
reason why I came back to Dallas.
Okay.
And I was living with my parents, which was another struggle because it was trying to fight. Like, I used to have my freedom in San Antonio. Didn't have to, I didn't have to come back to anybody. I didn't have anyone telling me, hey, you have a curfew.
Yeah.
So that was hard too. So that definitely made me struggle spiritually. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to fall away. And so one week I didn't go to church one Sunday. And I ended up going to like another random church that I just found online. And I was sitting there in service and I was like, why am I looking for something I already have? And so I was like,
That's a word.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like where else would I go type thing.
Yeah.
And it's like I felt just that 1 week I felt empty. And so I realized like God is what I need. It
Yeah.
might be hard.
Yeah.
Living a disciple life is definitely hard, but I wouldn't give it up for anything else. And I think after that, it's been pretty firm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how old are you guys?
We are both 23.
Well, of course, compared to you, brother. Okay. And then, okay, so when did y'all become disciples?
I was 19.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, you were young. Now, yeah, because I remember when we had been here for a minute. Golly.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I remember when you became. I didn't go to your baptism, but I remember when they announced you had the Fabio hair. I was like,
Yeah.
this dude,
Yeah, the
man.
line. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
it's
did
been
you-
about 4 years.
When did you get baptized?
Around the same time, I was 19. It was October 2014 for both of us.
She got baptized a week after me.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
I know.
Yeah.
And actually, so what day is today? The 23rd?
Yeah.
So it's only been 4 days after the four year mark. So on the October 19th, In 2014 is when I got baptized.
Wow.
hers
And mine
coming
is in
up.
3 days.
Yeah.
The 26th.
wow.
That is
Yeah.
So how did? Oh, go ahead, babe.
Yeah. So we can. So yeah, you're gonna say how did y'all meet?
Yep.
And,
That was gonna be it.
We can, just how did you guys meet, and then we'll spend some time just kind of talking about just how. I mean, did you guys had relationships before this?
Yeah.
Kinda,
Yeah.
sorta.
Pablo like, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely did.
I had one experience, and then I became a feminist, and I was like, guys are stupid.
Well, that's interesting.
That's interesting. That's a perspective.
We would have to have
Okay.
you back here.
Yeah.
So, first, how did you guys meet? Yeah.
Well, she kind of said a little bit of it around that time where she was struggling and kind of going to different churches. I was kind of, she came back and she never had a ride to church. And so for me, occasionally me and I think it was Savannah at the time, and I don't know who else, picked you up and dropped you off, but I was one of the campus guys that, would pick her up, take her to church, and, take her home. That was the first time we met, and we had some interesting conversations in the car. I think for me, I don't remember the exact, conversation we had, but it was kind of like, come back, it's just being selfish. I didn't say it like that, but it came off.
He did end up saying
It was
it.
kind of
Did I
hard.
say that?
Yeah.
I think when I was younger as a disciple, I would definitely try to sugarcoat as many things as possible. Now I just kind of like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So
No, I think what helped was because the first time he ever gave me a ride, I asked every other sister for a ride, and nobody could pick me up. And so one of the sisters was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go send a brother to come pick you up."
Okay.
So I get in the car with him, and he's speeding at first on our way to church, and so I'm sitting there freaking out, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die today."
funny story about that actually.
Yeah. And then I was a little quiet at boot camp. And then on the way back when he was dropping me off, that's when I told him like everything that I was kind of going through.
Yeah.
And so he did a good job at it, but he was kind of like, "Okay, I understand where you're coming from." And then he was like, "Yeah, you're being selfish." Like,
I honestly don't think I said it like that.
yes, you did.
I don't think so.
Definitely.
I mean, it worked.
It was respectful, but it was
Yeah.
definitely it wasn't. He said something that no one else was telling me. And so I could tell that he had listened to what I was saying and he
Yeah.
understood me, but he was telling me more so. He was telling me what I knew, but he was telling me in a different way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's what helped because it kept me from being stubborn because I was
Okay.
being really stubborn before that. And so just realizing like, oh, yeah, I need a change.
So when did y'all become a couple? Like, how did that happen? Like, so y'all started out, it was just a simple ride, and hey, you're being selfish. Oh, I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so what got the wheels moving?
He can
You
explain
want
that
me to
one.
explain that one?
Yeah, because it was interesting.
It is very interesting. So, I was pursuing someone else at the time.
It happens.
I honestly had no feelings toward her. At that time it was really just friendship. It was just a genuine friendship. And so I was pursuing someone else, but the problem with that one is that it was also just a genuine friendship. I really, I tried to give it as much. I tried to feel a certain way, and I think for me it just didn't work. Unfortunately, I had to go through some learning curves along the way, but a major learning curve for me was, as I was pursuing, I fell into some impurity while I did that. I got open about it, as disciples should, and I got rebuked, I got corrected, and I think at that time I was feeling like low mentally, low spiritually. And so, I need to go and take a trip. Jacob and Janelle were the campus leaders at the time.
Okay.
Actually, they still are, but they were.
Okay.
back then. And so, they're taking a trip to San Antonio to encourage the ministry down there, give them a Friday night Devo lesson. And so like, well, let me tag along. Excuse me. So I went with a buddy, Clarence, and, Karen had heard about it. She's from San Antonio, so she went down there. And so, we get down there, and I promise you, like, it hadn't been 4 days after all this. And basically we get down there, and I'm like thinking, wow, Karen's really spiritual. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm crap, like I'm feeling so down. I'm like, man, she'd be great to keep me on the straight and narrow. This is what I'm thinking. And I was like, man, I could really see myself with her. And I thought about it for so long. I thought that thought process, like, man, I could definitely see myself with her.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was like, let me. Because I think I don't know if people will admit it or not, but before you date, you kind of like picture yourself dating, just to make sure that in your mind, you can see yourself in that relationship. Yeah. So for me, I'm thinking and I'm picturing us together, and I'm like, you know what? I think it definitely could work. And so I tell Clarence that night, and he's like, bro, you got to chill. You just came off this, whatever you like to call it. And I was like, bro, you're right. I shouldn't even think about it. Well, I'm sinful and I still think about it. And we're driving up. She rode down with Jacob and Janelle. And then Jacob and Janelle had to leave early, and she wanted to catch up with some old friends. So we were like, well, we'll stay in the area for a little bit longer. When we're going, we're heading back up to Dallas from San Antonio. We stopped by a gas station, and, in my mind, I'm like, she's sitting shotgun, and Clarence is in the back seat, and we stop for gas. And I'm still trying to picture us together, and I go and I get, I pull the gas nozzle out, and she goes, I don't know what you said. You said something.
I was looking for a charger.
Yeah, that's what it was. She was like, hey, you have a charger? And I turned, and I promise you, instinct was like, what was that, babe? And
I was like...
And then all of us in the car, literally, like, eyes open, like, and then me outside, I got my hand on top of the hood, or on top of the car, and I'm, like, looking down, like, what did I just say?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't say it, but I was like, and I couldn't recover. Yeah. And everyone in the car just starts laughing but me. And I'm like...
I tried helping him at first.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm going to pretend like this didn't happen. Yeah. So I was like... where's your charger at? Like, I just tried to keep going with the conversation.
Yeah.
And he was frozen.
I was frozen. I'm like, what did I just do? My goodness. And so at the time, like, honestly, I didn't think I liked her. This was just all like picturing myself with her, and it,
got caught up
thinking about it. Anyway, fast forward about a month and a half. And I think, I get open. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm starting to develop real feelings for Karen. And the initial thought was like, bro, you just got off this really bad relationship, that kind of off and on thing that you got going. This doesn't seem legit, it doesn't seem legitimate. And so, I started liking her. I think the trip was around October, and I started liking her around November. Yeah, probably November, December, like mid-December. I remember going home for Christmas. Yeah. And that's when I was like, yeah, I like her. But she didn't like me. And so, and especially with, the past sin and everything that had gone through, it was like, she definitely had to, I guess you could say, like, sift my feelings, making sure that, what was left was, was real.
Yeah.
So I pursued her for like maybe 7 months. And to the point where it's like, I left out a crucial point. The girl I was previously pursuing was her discipler.
Oh, man.
And so during the time when they were like, where he was realizing like, okay, this isn't going anywhere, there's no feelings. And so when he broke it off, we're talking about all of this.
Oh.
And so I'm like, girl, if he ain't right, just drop it, leave it. Like, there's no point in like trying to mess with it. Don't try to mend something that's broken and cannot be
It looked
mended.
really bad, trust me, for
Yeah.
a really long time until, you know.
So
Yeah.
for people that don't know what the term discipler is,
yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a person that basically is like a Christian mentor to you, and like you're sitting at their feet, your student, their teacher. So this is a person that Karen was sitting at her feet and helping her and guiding her through her spiritual walk.
Yeah, and on top of that, we were friends too. So it's like we would be together a lot, would hang out a lot, and talk a lot about things. And I remember he had whenever he was ending it, he was trying to like make it sure that this is final.
Yeah, because
So
it
he
was
was
off
like-
and on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was like, this, like, it's the end. Don't get upset if you see me move on with somebody else. Pretty much letting her know that, hey, like, this isn't like we're going to come back to it later. And so she was like, who is that person? And I was like, I don't know who that person is.
No, because she really didn't, you know?
Yeah.
She had no idea I liked her until like March.
So you're
Like-
part of a whole equation, and you're just like, girl, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm with you.
Exactly. And I didn't like him at that time. I was just like, yo, he's my friend. Because we'd always hang out, and we'd hang out all three of us together as well and stuff. So I didn't start liking him till the end of December. It was more so, and I cried too when I figured it out. I was, my
cries
sister
for
was
everything.
like,
I'm
We'll
a
find
girl
that out.
crier. Me
Yeah.
too.
She
Kindred
cried.
spirits.
I'm a crier, but I don't understand my own emotions.
Okay.
It's really weird.
Me and Melvin are connecting like no. Like,
I understand my emotions. I just let it flow. I'm just like, I'm supposed to cry. So God wants me to do this right now.
And
Yeah.
then me and Melvin go to another room and pray. We're like, please give us a patient. Please give us a patient.
He tells me to. Sometimes I'm crying. He was like, I think you should pray right now. And I'm like, okay.
Booger. You ever see like the Little Giants? The kid that goes to practice and start blowing that bubble. That's what she looked like after one of her episodes.
Yeah, but in December, what really like secured that I liked him was so in December we had prayer partners. So we had a list where everyone had somebody that they had to call every single day of December. It was supposed to help hold each other accountable because around that time everyone's going home, splitting up.
Yeah,
You're not
from campus, from
Yeah.
college. Yeah.
you don't get that encouragement from being around each other. So when we were on the phone with each other, everyone else was like a 30-minute conversation maximum. That was it. We were on the phone for I think 2 to 3 hours.
Wow.
And we were just like, what? And then after I hung out with him, I called my friend Savannah, and then I called Janelle, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to admit that I like him now. I think that kind of secured it. And I think Savannah told me that he called her the same day and was like, yeah, I really like Karen. And so that's when, but I didn't think that he liked me. I had no idea. I was like, I'm way out of his league. Like, no, I'm way out of his league. He's way out of my league. Yeah, that's the right way
It's
to
the
put
other way
it.
around, really. It's the other way around.
So I had no idea. And I don't show my emotions. So I wasn't showing that I liked him, even when I did. So that got him frustrated because he thought that I didn't like him for the longest. Yeah.
So, this is like Pluto to Mars. I don't know if those two things are far away, but compared to, what the world does and what Kimberly and I, like our dating relationship. And, people listening to this, it can seem almost like weird, just the amount of consideration. So like you talked about, the first thing you felt was like, she's super spiritual and, maybe she can keep me on track. Like sifting him out and just these different things. Are there did you find any of the spiritual part of it, like, did any of it seem weird or difficult, like to figure out how to navigate dating as Christians? Was that whole thing simple for you guys, or did you find any difficulties in just understanding it? You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. So, for example, like I was in campus ministry, and I dated in the kingdom, and I don't know if this was weird or not weird, but I was super, like I showed like I kept myself no affection, like more maybe hugs, but like I'm not doing any, like I don't know if it was overdoing it or what, but I definitely felt awkward, dating as a Christian, knowing how to go from this certain interaction with sisters to now I've got this interaction that's kind of more, but not, you know what I mean? It was I remember it being a weird spot for me to kind of navigate, and I'm pretty sure I butchered it, but it was a weird spot for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me, it's super hard. Yeah. I think, well, for one, this is a radio podcast, so you can't really see what we look like. But if you were to look at me, I'm a whitewashed Mexican. And well, hey, you call it as it is. And so, Karen is African. She's black, color of her skin. And, for me, I never dated a black girl. I did, but I didn't before. I didn't consider it. And so for me, I think knowing my past, knowing what I came from, I definitely looked for the physical attributes a lot, way, way above, the conversational or the spiritual and so for me, I mean, that was a lot. It was really hard for me to adjust. And I think, like I said, the prior girl that I was pursuing, I tried it. I tried it. She was a very pretty girl, very, beautiful inside, and out, but for me, it just, I didn't consider her as, as wrong as it says, as wrong as that sounds anyway. I didn't consider her to be attractive in my eyes. You know what I mean? But she was a great friend. We had great conversations. She was amazing. She was spiritual. But I tried to do, what I hadn't done prior. I think it was very hard for me to see, all the things I should look out for prior to Karen. And it does take a lot, to get your mind out of that mentality.
Yeah.
And I would say it's never going to leave you. Karen is very beautiful. But at the same time, I think just the fact that, honestly, without Christ, I wouldn't be married to Karen, and so, Karen definitely, it took me a while, you know what I mean? I think in Christ, I've been baptized 4 years ago, and we're just now married. It took me 3.5, close to, so 3 years and say 8 months to kind of get out of that mentality, and so it takes a while. It takes a lot to train to renew your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, it was really hard for me.
And I don't think that we said this to the audience, but they've been married for 3 months. So they are like...
Yeah, anything we miss, we'll double back.
Yeah, okay.
We're fresh off the altar.
Yeah.
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 But I think for me, I don't want to say just it wasn't as hard, but for me, I knew what I wanted. Like, even when I was younger, before even, like, becoming baptized and actually being serious about my relationship with God, I knew that I wanted a godly man. And so in high school, I was in a very short-term relationship for 2 months. And I was like, this isn't worth it. I was like, it's not worth me dating somebody that it's not going to go anywhere. I can't see myself marrying. In high school, I'm too young to get married. So why should I invest so much into something that's just going to go away? And so I didn't date at all. After that, I was like, I'm not even going to try it. There were guys that I liked, but I just knew I was like, a relationship is not what I need. And so whenever it came to him, the reason why it took so long was because I was praying and fasting the whole time. I was trying to make sure, like, God, like, one, can I see myself, even before we started dating, is this somebody that I could marry? Not necessarily, I see everything, but does he have one of the basic things? So does he love you first and foremost?
Yeah.
Is he dedicated? Is he just saying that he loves you, or is he actually putting it into action?
Okay.
And even just kind of his mindset, like, is he driven? Is he caring and stuff like that? And then 2 is just like, am I ready for it as well? Am I ready to be in a relationship? Because if I'm not ready, I don't want to be in it.
Wow.
So that's why it took so long, and he was getting very impatient.
Oh, I'm so impatient.
Yeah.
You don't understand. And not to be prideful, but everything I do decently well the first time. And, you know, Christianity is not one of those things. And her, you know, was not one of those things. So trust me, patience is not my virtue.
But you know what? It's really good to hear your take, Karen, because I think as women, society has trained us to have this type of life. We're supposed to grow up. We're supposed to get married. You're supposed to have kids. And, you know, maybe you can have a career, maybe not. But it's like you're trained to do that. And like you really took the time to like ask important questions, not to him. Like this was even before you got to him. It's like, okay, me and you, God, what is it that you need for me to see if I need to be here? If not, then I'm okay. And being very surrendered to that, you know, because I know many women now who are they feel pressured that like, I got to get married. And it seems like you were very like, I'm sure it was not easy for you, but you know, with saying I prayed and I fast and these are the things that I was looking at, that's so not what society says that women are supposed to do. Like, we're looking to be found. Like, put yourself in a position to get you a godly man. And you're like, I ain't even studying him yet. God, what are you telling me to do? Yeah. That's great. That's really good. Good stuff. We did not date in the kingdom. I mean, at least he was in campus ministry. I would have to confess that I was part of the reason why he fell away from the church. I can't take all of that on, but I definitely was a factor because we met in college.
No. Because, no, here goes the thing. By that time, I think I had allowed myself to be more spiritually numb, because as a disciple, like I would not even be attracted to, I don't care how beautiful you are. Like, it was like, because I'm looking at the rest of my life, like spiritually, like my goals and my thoughts and my dreams are all surrounded around, you know, spiritual, I guess, achievements, like working for God, doing things for God. And those things were the things that were attractive to me. And I think that's like a barometer, period. Like spiritually, especially for a man, because I don't want to generalize, but this is the truth, man. We're woven differently, like hunters almost, you know, to me. And I think that the carnal man, let me say that, and the human Melvin would really, you know, I'm the person that would go out and be attracted to the physical things and go back and forth over all that. But as a spiritually minded person, there would have been nothing that you could have done that would have, number one, I would have never put myself in a position to be tempted like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was, I had allowed myself to become spiritually dull. Maybe not
Just
cut off,
hard-hearted.
but
Yeah.
just dull. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Dull enough that, and nobody would have
No.
known that. Like it, I was going to church. I was very active.
Yeah.
I was
when we
studying the
first-
Bible with people.
Yeah.
But it was like inside, like just dull. You know what I mean? Not really going after it. And so, like, my eyes could kind of go outside of where my goals used to be. So, nonetheless, we definitely did not have a spiritual dating relationship. And I think that I think a lot of times, like what God has for you, He has for you.
Yeah.
Like, let's say I'd have handled this spiritually, because I definitely had times. Because the first time I met her, like, you know,
I asked him because he used to go to church all the time. And we go to a college town. We went to the University of Tennessee, which is a college town in Knoxville. And churches are they're trying to recruit college kids. Like, that's just how it goes. And I remember asking him, how come I never go to your church? And he was like, meh. So, like, now as a disciple, I know what that kind of response really means at a heart level, because if he was in a spiritual place, I would have been at the church. You know what I'm
that
saying?
would have been our interaction. I'd have been like, let me give you this sister's number.
sister's
I'm
number.
gonna call you,
And-
and I still could have been like, man, I like this girl, God. You know, if you can
Yeah.
bring
Nah.
her around.
Oh, trust me. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I had the same
Yeah.
experience.
And it's like, it's amazing because his conversion story is, like, to me, so miraculous. And it wasn't until like about a year and a half ago where I started to see how God's hand was on my conversion story, because in all honesty, the way that we started, I shouldn't be a disciple, and neither should he. Because when we really got to a point where we were really like dating seriously, he stopped going to church. And like I said, I asked, how many people that you're pursuing actually asked to go to your church? I asked, I was like, well, you are so busy and you talk about all these people that you have relationships with. I would love to go to church with you. And he would never give me an answer as to why I could not. You know, now I know, but at the time I did not. And fast forward, we go and we date for 4 years. We get married. We were married for like 3 years? And then randomly his old college roommate, who was his best friend, invites him to church because they were in between evangelists and he was preaching. And we go. And a month later, he moves to Texas, but I still go to the church.
And I meet Sarah.
Well, she was
Evans at
Sarah
the time.
Evans at the time. And here's the gotcha. This is how God is so wonderful. So he gets a job. We had already planned to move out here before we started going back to the church. And that was just a one time, hey, Birch wants me to come. I think it's really important that I go. Okay, cool. You know, we like what we hear. You know, he gets the transfer to come out here. I decided to still go because they met at 4:00 in the evening. So that meant I could sleep in, and I was working on my master's degree, so I could have me some time and I can go to church still. And he gets connected with the church out here because we were living in Arlington. Sarah, who was then in the East, I think she was in the East, comes to service to help connect him. And that's where she meets Josh when she's helping Melvin to get connected with the church. Meanwhile, I'm going to church and I'm just like looking at all these people with their Bibles. I mean, everyone, kids, teenagers, and everybody's getting to the Bible quicker than me. And I'm like, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still turning. And it's practical messages. And I come home, I'm talking to him on the phone because I'm still in Tennessee at the time. And I'm asking him spiritual questions. And he was like, well, why don't you talk to some of the sisters And I was like, I don't know them, but I know you. So you explain it to me. And he was like, well, just think about talking to the sisters. No, that's not going to happen. So can you answer my question? Couple of weeks go by and I keep having questions and more questions. And then I just blurt out to one of the sisters, hey, can I sit down and study with you? Random. Like, where did that come from? And that's where my journey starts, you know? And so, and then I end up graduating, moving out here, and the sisters out here finish my studies. I get baptized and there we go, you know? But it's like starting out and how we started, like, I shouldn't be a disciple. but I should be a disciple because God's hand was on us, you know?
So, that's funny.
I know.
Like,
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Abba.
so one thing that I did see becoming a disciple, or being married, without it being centered around God, versus our marriage now, it's almost like I'm married to a different person, right? I'm actually very grateful for this kind of two different viewpoints of what marriage can be, because it's almost like I have the cheat code. You know what I mean? Like having the Spirit and having like the Bible as your standard. It's almost like it's not fair, because you always have this place to start from, and it makes just life is just so much. It's just such a better marriage. I mean, as funny as it sounds, it's so practical. Like I can't even understand how we made it without that. How have you guys, so even though you were disciples going into this, how has the transition of being Pablo Christian, Karen Christian, been going into being Garza's Christian? We are one.
Yeah.
Like how has that transition been?
All of 3 months.
Yeah.
You want to answer that?
I can try to answer and then you could finish. But I feel like the transition was really smooth, because the difference with dating as disciples was that there was a huge focus on our friendship.
Right.
So the fact that that's all we could really do was focus on, all we could talk about is friendship stuff and spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped grow us. And then the fact that we're already friends before we started dating, that helped a lot. So then whenever we got into our marriage, we knew how to talk to each other. He knew how to handle my emotions. I knew how to let him have a little bit of space. Still have to work on it sometimes. But so it's like those basic things that people argue about, which is usually communication issues.
Yeah.
We haven't had those yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a very smooth transition going into being married.
I think we got the complete opposite. I think we communicate too much. Like maybe sometimes
Says the
when
man.
like, there are times where like, and I should have probably kept my mouth shut on that one. You know what I mean? Like, you know what? We could talk about this in a different setting, or most of the time it's just kind of like spur of the moment. We really don't hold much in. I think, she says, we're best friends, and before we were, married, and I think we are. We're friends, and we're best friends before we're married. But I think, it's a different kind of best friend, when, compared to like me and Karen versus like, say, me and another bro, or me and another high school friend I grew up with. You know, it's a little different, you know. You hear, best friend, some people can think of it as a little cliche, but it's not. It's really not. I think if you can have the conversations, and you can wake up in the morning and you can, talk to her, force her to get out of bed, or ask what's for dinner, and if she can't cook, then you're cooking, or I think honestly we're a well-oiled machine, I think right now we're adding a little spice to our lives. We're picking up a puppy this weekend. So,
man, I thought you were about to say something else.
Exclusive
already.
Hey, but you know what? Hold up.
Mexicans will pop them out, but not that quick.
Hey, look, man, a puppy may have been harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. She has no prior puppy experience. I have a little bit. So we've just been watching puppy videos and like training videos. Like, what do we need to do?
Yeah. Do you know what stinks? I think I just threw away like
a lot of
dog
yeah, because our puppy. Well, she ran away after we had our first one, our first daughter, and we brought her from Tennessee.
Yeah, that's my little homie.
Yeah, I don't
But
miss her.
let's-
Oh,
I miss her. So,
I miss her.
I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think
Little
he'll be
bit.
more emotionally connected.
Oh,
than
I'm
I
gonna
will.
be so. I told her today. I was like, inevitably, the dog will die. And that day I will probably cry for a couple days straight. I might have to take some
it'll
sick
be your
days.
first baby. It will be your first baby.
So
that's
Yeah.
funny. Well,
I wanted to make a comment, like when you were saying about the best friends, and as your marriage grows and evolves, like there is a point in our marriage where it's like, you literally know me better than anybody on this earth. Like, you know me better than my mom, and she gave birth to me. And I know you better than anyone else, because you'll just start stories will just start popping up from your childhood and your perspective on things. And, I didn't really like that as a kid. Do you know that's how I was when I was in school? You'll just start hearing things that that's your safe zone, and then it's like, it's not cliche to hear it, because it's like, literally, like, I can tell his nonverbal cues like none other. He can be in a room and everybody can just think, "Oh, Melvin." I'm like, "Oh, Melvin is very upset, guys. Y'all better back up." Like I can tell all his nonverbal cues. So, but that's good. That's good.
I did want to share just a couple of little tidbits here so I think you guys had the communication is the biggest thing. You know what I mean? From at least from our experience and from everybody we've talked to in its work. You know what I mean? Like, one thing is, for Kimberly and I, we're kind of just like you guys. Like, we were best friends. I don't talk to people. Like, I don't talk on the phone a lot. I don't. Yeah, it's not my
Can't do
thing,
it.
man. But with Kimberly, I'd be on the phone for like hours.
Yeah.
And that's just not my thing. You know what I mean? And she's always been a person who it came really easy with. And I think probably me more than her. I think I took that for granted maybe, and we just didn't work on that as much anymore. And it came like this maybe happened about like last year or something, where like we just were arguing over dumb stuff, right? And then it just clicked like, man, this used to be our thing.
Yeah.
Like being able to talk. And we've never been like the let things linger type of people. We've always like addressed things, but it just seemed like we were arguing over the dumbest things day after day after day. And it was like, wait, this is ridiculous. And what it really brought me to a conviction of is like, you got to work. You know what I mean? Work on your strong point. You know what I mean? If this is y'all's go-to, like if communication is y'all's like strong point, always just work on making sure that you're building on those bridges, because especially as disciples, as friends, you can only be so intimate with one another and like open up so much. And it doesn't matter as disciples or not. When you marry someone, all the walls come down, you know what I mean? And so you can be way more vulnerable, but some people don't take advantage of that extra vulnerability. I remember, as a married couple, like I didn't talk to her about like my credit for like, was it a year?
No, it was leading up to our marriage.
Yeah. Like, and I was horrible financially, horrible. Like, but I never, like leading up to our marriage, it was still something that was like, I couldn't talk about. And cause I was ashamed really, but getting married, I had to drop those walls, and it was the best thing ever because
I'm
she's
good
at
financially.
that. And so
Let's fix this.
Yeah, it helped me. It helped me to feel empowered. Like, wait, I could do this, and now I'm good financially. Yeah. You know what I mean? I can make better decisions. But all that is to say is continue to like take advantage of those walls that come down. And then for everybody here, there's this scripture everybody reads probably. It's that Ephesians 5, rules for Christian households, right? And this has been kind of like my go-to for the last week or so. And it starts out like, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also should wives submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by washing her with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain, wrinkle, or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they do their own bodies. Now, I think y'all's mission really is to kind of figure out what that means. Like, how do you play this out in your lives, right? I think the thing that is obvious, period, is that when it talks about, y'all's dynamic, and I think sometimes it could be taken like, I'm the leader in whatever. Like, my leadership has very little to do with me in terms of, like, it has everything. Kimberly chooses to submit out of reverence for God. Definitely not because I do a better job.
Of you.
Yeah.
I love you,
You ain't
though.
have to say that.
Well, look, we gotta
Yeah,
keep it clear for the people. I do it for
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
not for Melvin. I do it
Because
for God.
I am a cluster the majority of the times. And that
too
doesn't mean
bad.
that, like, 9 times out of 10, I don't get my way. You know what I mean? I go
Wait
with,
a minute.
I'm talking about but anyway. But,
I smell dirty laundry.
all right, listen, we can be real. She, she submits to me, but my job is to, number one, cleanse her with the word. You know what I'm saying? Like, our job as husbands is to cleanse her with the word. So those two things are like solid. But the thing that I have learned is when, by her choosing to do that, like, she's putting a lot of trust in me. And I always try to make sure that I think of, like, how Jesus sacrificed for us. How did Jesus show us his love for us? You know what I mean? How do I do the same thing to Kimberly? And I try to always put myself last in this sense. Like, when we're talking about, when we're making plans, right? I make sure that it's not just always my way. And this may sound silly to you guys, but that may be because that's not the way you think, Pablo. But I have seen some issues before come up where, if you're put in this position as a man, everything can just be your way. And it's she's either going to be miserable or she's going to have a hard time doing that anymore. You know what I mean? That's something very precious that they entrust to us. So I think, like I said, what this means for me is I have to always evaluate when I'm making decisions. Am I considering her? I put my needs lower, and only I think it's just, but that's for me. But ultimately, I want to make sure that I'm being fair in the way that I make decisions, and it's not just my way, because, be realistic, it's not always the right way, probably 9 times out of 10. But
I don't think we always get my way, but I think that scripture really thinks it's like a dynamic relationship. Yeah. There's a responsibility that needs to be upheld on both ends. You know what I'm saying? And neither one is an easy thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like that's why I think that scripture, we can read over it so easily. And it's like, women submit to husbands, but men, you also have a responsibility, as we have one as well. It's dynamic. We're both moving, And so,
and it says submit to one another out of reverence for God.
Yeah. I know, something that we try to do that an older couple had brought up in one of our like marriage classes that we took was that trying to outserve each other. you know, and, you know, also realizing that, like, for me, being such an independent woman, you know, submission intellectually, I get it, but I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I had shared with Melvin and the couple that disciples us, the way that I get it is, well, we know that we're helpmates. Some people say helpmeets. And submission, you have a mission that I need to get under. Submission. You can't not get your mission. You cannot, the mission that God has given you, you cannot accomplish that if I'm not helping you. You know, we are a hand in glove. So my question has turned to, what do I need to do to help you do what you need to do? Meaning, first off, to get your mission, you need to be in the Word, hearing from God. You know, that's where your mission's coming from. So whatever God has told you, how can I help you with that? Because you can't accomplish that without me. And that's powerful, you know, for me. And I was like, now that makes sense. I can get under a guy. But, you know, so anyways, guys, we're just rambling or anything. Do y'all have anything that y'all want to say or ask or concerns, questions, anything?
Yeah. I just think on like the humility aspect, I remember having a talk with somebody. We were having coupling with Jacob and Janelle Bartlow.
Uh-huh.
And Jacob was like, hey, you need to learn how to submit. And I was like, what? Like, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
But
she really don't, though.
I don't.
She don't do what she wants.
I think it's just like, because for me, when I view like submitting, the verse that comes to my mind is Philippians 2:3. So do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself.
Or me.
Not looking to your own interest, but to each of you, the interest of others.
Or me.
So it's like, so submitting just doesn't mean shut up and don't do anything.
Yeah.
Do what you're told.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, like I'm choosing to value you over myself.
Yeah.
And so, and it's like he does the same thing for me.
Yeah.
And so it helps me to not be prideful. Because
Yeah.
one, I don't always know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But two, it helps me to think about him in situations and how he can lead as a husband, but also just how we can help each other spiritually by putting each other first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's how I think about it.
Yeah, trust me, if it was up to me, we'd already have the dog.
I'm the person that's like, wait, let's think about it. You know, we should probably wait a year.
Let's just say I planted that seed well. Okay? I planted that seed real well.
I submitted.
I want a dog. I wanted a dog for a while. I want a new dog.
I can give you some tips, Melvin.
No.
Hey, look, let me tell you something, man. I've learned that the majority of the time when Kimberly gives me some feedback like that, it's normally probably right.
Because I'm not like a definite, like, no person or yet like that. I'm no.
Because when I think about it, I don't know if I want to, like, I'd be having to go walk a dog right now.
Yeah. Yeah. With
It
our
is
two
nice
children.
to just be chilling, watching football.
With your
But-
companion to your left or right.
I know.
It's
yeah,
starting
no.
to get cold outside. Got to think about that.
I mean, you know, hey, I'm with you, man. I want a dog, but hey, I'm chill right now. You know what I mean?
We will eventually get one, but can we get the last one out of diapers? I mean, we're already cleaning up after one.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you. But
Yeah.
We're getting a golden doodle actually, and so they're we were looking at like a doodle, like a Bernedoodle or like golden doodle or a Labradoodle, just anything but a poodle. You know? No, so they don't shed, and they don't harbor, like, you know, with people with allergies that are allergic to like dogs,
dander.
that skin dander, right?
Yeah.
You know, with poodles and any other dog that's what you call hypoallergenic, they don't shed those dead skin cells, that dandruff, as much as other dogs do.
Okay.
And so, you know, that's as far as like, you know, cleaning after the dog, I think golden doodle or any type of doodle, especially the one we're getting is mixed with a golden retriever. So it acts like a golden retriever, or more so like it, and has the physical characteristics of a poodle that doesn't really shed or make messes.
See,
I
he
ain't
wants
worried
a
about-
mastiff.
I ain't worried about the hair. I'm worried about the doodle.
Yeah, he wants the mastiff.
I
What?
do want a mastiff.
Right.
Have you looked into those Tibetan mastiffs?
Isn't that the one that's like looks terrifying?
Looks like it could kill a bear.
Yeah. that-
Yeah, that one.
He ain't got to look into that.
Mastiffs are good dogs though, man. They're
Yeah,
better for kids for sure.
Yeah, they're good family dogs, but
Well, cool.
in the long run. Well, anyways, guys, we appreciate you guys sitting down. We got to know y'all a lot better. Hope y'all got to know us a little bit better.
Did y'all have anything else to share or to?
No, nothing I know of.
All right. Well, I thought
Y'all
this
are
was
naturals.
Yeah.
Wait, I mean, if you guys want us again, we can come back. We like the house. We like this little area you got here.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
yeah,
This
come on
Melvin's
back. I'm
don't
gonna
matter.
try to sell you on moving to Cedar Hill, man. I should join the Chamber of Commerce.
Wow. No, I work like south of the airport, so it'd make it a pretty hard commute.
Oh no way, man! You take 30, the back route. You're there. South of the
30.
airport,
See?
the
See?
back route. Like, is it towards Fort Worth?
It's toward Fort Worth, Euless, like Euless Hurst area.
Yeah, take the back
Or
route.
take the toll.
No time. No, and there's no traffic. There's comparatively speaking, there's no traffic in this like compared to other places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, we could definitely look into it.
I've
Especially-
convinced 3 people to move to Cedar Hill so far.
Look at him.
Yeah, 3.
Best kept secret.
Yeah, man.
Best
It is.
kept
It is. It is. Anyways,
Well,
guys.
I mean, if your podcast gets any bigger, it might not be.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, we enjoy you. We have enjoyed you guys, and we thank our listeners for listening. And that's it. Anything else, Melvin, before I sign us off?
No, we're gonna need a part 2 with you guys, man.
Yeah.
I got to get into this feminist thing. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
hear this. But, no,
Nothing else?
and I need to find out about Zimbabwe. Golly, man. Yeah.
Look up Victoria
There's a lot to
Falls.
it.
I've heard of Victoria Falls. Isn't that like the highest waterfall or something like that?
It is the
One of them?
largest waterfall
Largest.
as far as distance.
Oh wow.
Niagara Falls still has the height, I think.
Oh, for real?
But
It's one of the
Victoria
7
Falls
wonders.
is like, I think, a couple miles long. It's like the Grand Canyon was a waterfall.
Where's
Oh, wow.
T Mariga from?
Zimbabwe.
Tinashe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him.
Uh-huh.
Tafazwa.
So-
Oh, Tafadzwa.
Uh-huh. Did y'all have like the African wedding and everything?
No.
No, we
no,
didn't.
Well, no, not really. No.
Are
Yeah.
y'all going to? Or do you supposed to? Or?
No.
Okay.
My mom
Probably
brought it
not.
up today
Oh, did she really? Oh, no.
because
no.
my sister's husband's sister
Uh-huh.
just
yeah.
had her African wedding.
Uh-huh.
And my mom was like, "Oh, did he get to see it? And Pablo,
Yeah.
does he understand what's going on? Like, if he wants to do it, he can."
So you need to get in the garb.
what's
like
the
I would
word?
love to see you in full
What's the name? Did it? Dirk Nowitzki did it.
Yeah, he
You
did.
could do it.
Oh, he
No,
did
no.
do
She's
it.
talking about what's the word? Like dowry, like where like the
like
groom
the
will
tradi-
pay for
the traditional.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what they want me to do.
African wedding.
Yeah, I gotta shove out with some money.
Cash.
I was
Some-
talking
some
about
straight up cash.
like the y'all be in your garb and your headdress, and I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. If people
Yeah.
throw
Oh, so
money
hold
at
up.
you,
If you got a daughter, then you get some cash.
No, they
no,
get some cash.
He pays.
I gotta
for
pay.
her.
That's what I'm
For
saying.
her.
So like, I got 2 girls. This is a racket.
Yes.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
If he was to
Oh,
have a
Farrah
daughter.
marrying somebody
Yeah.
from Zimbabwe. We about to get into this thing.
Yeah. And you can charge
Yeah.
for everything.
No, you
it
could. You could charge for everything, but if the guy's smart, he'll negotiate down.
What?
No. Like traditionally, this stuff gets heated. Like they'll start like, yeah. Traditionally, they'll like, well, depending on whether or not she was a virgin or not, that could like higher or lower the price. I mean, it goes. They ask
Wow.
for cows. Anyway, but
It's a
traditionally
respect thing.
now it was a respect thing back then, and it's a respect thing now. But traditionally now you have it before the actual Christian wedding, so that most of the money will actually just go toward the Christian wedding. You know, but you know, we didn't have time to do that with them, and I did want to, but traditionally, you know, I'm supposed to have a family member. You know, I can't speak at all during this. At all, and I have to be represented by either my uncle or a really close friend.
Wow.
And so I couldn't have, you know, I couldn't have any of my family members there. It's interesting, but after Cameron, her sister's husband's sister, fiance, right, that's a mouthful. After that, I mean, he probably came out with. I mean, he dished out maybe like $6,000 at this thing. Like they charged him. So yeah. So yeah.
Oh.
And for me, if I do it after the wedding, I don't know if I'm gonna see that money back.
You're
know,
not.
it's a different thing when
She's like, you're not.
Yeah, I'm not. You know.
Mom's
Wow.
gonna have some real
Yeah.
nice bags.
Exactly. So that culturally for me, that's a huge shock.
Yeah.
So I'd have to really think about it, really pray about it. Obviously, you know, it would do her parents an extreme favor and extreme respect to do it, you know. But for me, it would also be it would be tough.
Yeah.
It'd be real tough. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
I don't
hilarious.
He just asked for my hand in marriage. I'm from Tennessee. That's about it.
I still was nervous.
You get down on one knee, Melvin?
Oh yes, I wrote her a song.
Yeah, he
and
wrote me a
everything.
song, which I don't remember because I was crying the whole time. Yeah. He proposed at my favorite restaurant, which is like what was it, like a hibachi place that was in
Okay, yeah.
Knoxville, and I was getting ready to move to Atlanta, so I thought it was a going away party. At first, I thought it was a proposal,
So
but
you didn't
then,
move.
well,
She moved, and I was
Yeah.
supposed to be moving right after.
with her, yeah. And so everybody handed me cards. Oh, we're gonna miss you, and I was like, "Oh, this is not a proposal dinner." Okay, thank you.
She's like an inch high private eye, man. She's like Inspector Gadget.
I am.
So I had to throw her off. So we went up there, and I knew she was expecting something, and so she starts seeing her sorority sisters' cars and my frat brothers' cars.
I was like, "Oh,
And then I was like,
yeah.
surprise! It's a going away party. And she was like,
Wah,
And then
wah.
right at the end of the dinner, the lady brought out the check and gave it to her. And she was like, what?
I
And
was
then-
like, excuse me, I'm not playing for this. What is this and this? It's a ring.
Got it.
That she lost.
Exactly.
And yeah, it was good. It was good. And then I moved to Atlanta. That was when the market it crashed. The job market was bad in 2008. And then so
couldn't get a
he
job.
couldn't get a job. So me being a nurse, I came back up to Tennessee, and then we got married about 2 months after I moved up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Dang.
Yep, and that is us. We done been through a lot. Well, anyways, guys, I don't want to keep y'all long because I know it's getting late and everything, but we appreciate you, and we thank all of you all for listening to us, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.
Doodle-doo-doo.